Hello, this is Brian Tracy, and welcome to this program entitled Make a Million. In the next few minutes, I'm going to teach you how to make your first $1 million. I'm going to give you an overview, which is not going to be the total picture, but it's going to give you a whole series of ideas that you can use. Now, I started off my life poor. I didn't have any money. I didn't graduate from high school. I worked at laboring jobs for several years. On a couple of occasions, I went on welfare and on unemployment insurance. I lived in my car. Sometimes I say I was homeless before it was respectable. And after working at laboring jobs, I drifted into sales, straight commission sales, because there were no laboring jobs available. And in straight commission sales, I just went around in circles. I struggled, I strived. I was living one sale away from homelessness, because if I didn't make a sale, get paid, get the money back to my rooming house lady, she would dump my stuff on the front porch, and I would be out of a place to stay. So I know what it's like to start off with nothing. But here's the good news. I used to feel sorry for myself when I was young because I didn't have any money. I'd say, well, I don't have any money. Wow. You know what I found out? Is that everybody starts off broke. Everybody who is wealthy today, with very few exceptions, started off with nothing. It's the national tradition is that we start off with very little in life, and the ones who become successful starting with nothing. And sometimes they go back to nothing several times. I say that broke is the natural condition of being an adult in America, and most people like broke so much they keep going back to it. Well, then I began to study self-made millionaires. I began to read books and articles and research studies on them. I began to build my own library on the subject, and you know what I found? Is that they all have certain qualities in common. They all have certain ways of achieving their goals, and that everything that they know is learnable. That you can actually learn anything you need to learn to accomplish any goal that you set for yourself. Now, quick example. If you decided that you wanted to run a marathon, well, then you would learn how. Get a couple of books and articles, get some coaching, train with some other people, learn how to train, stretch, run, expand your distance, and so on. Learn the right foods to eat, the liquids to drink, and so on. In other words, running a marathon is merely a skill you can learn. Typing with a typewriter is a skill you can learn. Becoming a millionaire is a skill you can learn. Now, in the year 1900, when the century changed last time, there were about 5,000 millionaires in America, virtually all of them self-made. By the year 2000, there were 5 million millionaires in America. There's 7 million millionaires in the world, and 5 million of them live in the United States. That's an increase of 1,000 times. And even though the economy goes up and down at times, there are still people becoming millionaires at a more rapid rate today than ever before. And the reason is because more and more of them are learning how. They're learning how others did it, and they're doing the same thing over and over. Now, here's a rule for you. If you do what other successful people do, in this case millionaires, nothing in the world can stop you from getting the same results they do eventually, as long as you keep on keeping on. However, the flip side is equally true. If you don't do what self-made millionaires do, then nothing in the world can help you to become financially independent. So your job, my job, our goal today is for you to get onto the fast track in your life by learning how people become self-made millionaires. So, there are more opportunities for more people to become millionaires in the years ahead than ever before. The United States has just been awarded, if you like, the designation as the most entrepreneurial country in the world. It is more possible to create wealth here in the U.S. than it is anywhere else in the world or than it has ever been before. So here's some of the basic rules for becoming a millionaire. Remember, if you break the basic rules, it's very, very hard for you to succeed in any field. So number 1, spend less than you earn. This is the foundation of The Richest Man in Babylon, perhaps the most successful best-selling book on financial independence. Spend less than you earn and save and invest the balance. In other words, live on less than you're bringing in. W. Clement Stone once said, "If you cannot save money, then the seeds of greatness are not in you." In other words, if you don't have the overall discipline to spend less than you earn, then you probably can't accomplish much else in life as well. So here's the rule. Save $100 a month. Now, if you save $100 a month and you invest it carefully in a well-chosen mutual fund, and it grows at an average of 10% per annum, from the age of 20 to the age of 65, you will be worth $1,118,000. Now imagine that. What that means, and by the way, there's lots of studies that verify this, what that means is that every single person starting work today, if they saved $100 per month and lived on the balance, could become a millionaire. There was a great study completed in Washington some years ago called 100 Million Millionaires, ? And what they did is said, yes, everybody could become a millionaire in that you could have assets worth $1 million when you're retired and be financially independent, and you would own it all. Of course, the study was buried because the government wants you to be dependent upon them rather than to be independent. So it's possible for everyone to do it if you start early enough, save steadily and consistently enough, and don't spend the money. So here's the second basic rule for becoming a millionaire, is pay yourself first. Now this is one of the most important of all rules. Most people save what they have left over. People who become wealthy save the money before they spend anything else. They save off the top of every paycheck. In other words, if they make $1,000 a month, they save 10% or more. They take $100 off the top and they only spend the $900. The average person takes the $1,000 and they spend everything they can, and if they have anything left over, they put it in the bank, usually only for a short while. Now, most people say, well, I can't save 10% of my income. If you knew how many bills I had and so on, and I understand because I've been there. So here's the rule. It's the trick. Start with 1% saving and live on the other 99%. Now, this is really important. If you're making $2,000 a month, you can save $20 a month. That's 66 cents a day. And what you do is, at the end of each month, take down and put $20 in your bank account. Save 1% off the top and live on the other 99%. Now, here's a secret. Human beings are creatures of habit. Not a secret, but what it means is if you get comfortable living on 99% of your income, you know what will happen? Is pretty soon you can increase your savings from 1% to 2%. And then from 2% to 3%. Within a year, you'll be at 10%. Within 2 years, at 20%. Within 3 years, at 30% or more. And the most amazing things will happen. First of all, your debts will start to all go away like ice melts in the spring. Somehow you become more intelligent about money. You start to save your money, put it away, liquidate your debts. You start to be more thoughtful in every expenditure. Then, not only that, you begin to be paid more. You begin to earn more money because you're a different person, and you increase your savings rate at the same time. Within 2 or 3 years, you'll be saving 20-30% of your income. You'll have several $1,000s in the bank. Now you start to get smart about investing. And it all happens in sequence, and it happens with you living on less than you earn. A very wealthy man once told me, he said, Brian, remember this, it's not how much you earn, but how much you keep that counts. A lot of people earn a lot of money, but they spend every penny of it and a little bit more besides. Smart people look upon themselves in terms of success and say, how much am I keeping, not how much am I earning? So here's some of the rules. First of all, delay and procrastinate on every major expenditure. Many major expenditures, whether it's a car, furniture, stereo set, vacation, many major expenditures, if you give yourself 30 days to think about them before you engage in them, you'll either not buy them at all or you'll make a much better buying decision. Second rule, never buy new when you can buy used. Self-made millionaires are incredibly good at buying used things. Here's a rule. Self-made millionaires, according to the research amongst thousands and tens of thousands of them, never buy new cars. People who are poor buy new cars, and as soon as you drive a new car off the lot, it drops in value by 20-25%. So self-made millionaires wait for 2 years, the magic time, when the car is still on warranty. Then they go out and they buy high-quality cars that are 2 years old, and they save themselves several $1,000s. And what do you think they do with that several $1,000s? That's right. They invest it so it grows and grows. And over time, just the amount you save by buying and driving used cars will be enough to make you financially independent, or at least help you quite a bit. So the rule is count your pennies and the dollars will take care of themselves. Now let's talk about wealth. All wealth comes from adding value in some way. The biggest problems in our society today are people who are envious of others who have more money, but they are not willing to do the things and become the person to add more value. The secret to success, the secret to getting a job, keeping a job, getting paid more, getting promoted faster, is to always think in terms of adding value, of being worth more than they're paying you. So, one of the ways that you add value is by doing more important things. Of all the things that you do at work, you should ask yourself, if I could only do one thing all day long, what is it that I do that adds the most value? And see if you can't organize your life so you're doing more of that on a regular basis. A second way you add value is by doing things faster, by doing things cheaper, by doing things better or of higher quality. You add value by reducing the costs of getting something done for yourself, your company, or your customers. Ross Perot, who you know became one of the richest men in the world, came up with a simple formula. He would operate people's data processing systems and save them money over their current costs and split the profits with them. And that was his whole business. And he went in and became so efficient at operating data services that he could actually save his customers money and make money for himself. He became one of the richest men in the world by finding ways to reduce costs. You can increase convenience for your customers by making it easier for them to buy and use your product. And you can increase the quality and keep the price. All ways of adding value. You also add value by giving people more of what they want and need at prices they're willing and able to pay. This is basically the secret of business. Find out what people want and need, and then give it to them, and give it to them really well at prices they're willing to pay. Well, self-made millionaires in America have been studied at great length, and we know where they come from. Let me tell you the sources of self-made millionaires. Number one source, top of the list, top of the hit parade, is entrepreneurs. 74% of self-made millionaires in America are those who have started and built their own businesses. Sometimes, usually started as one person or two people, they've built their own business and become millionaires. Even Bill Gates started his own business. Michael Dell started his own business. Warren Buffett, some of the people who are the richest people in the world today, started off with one or two people and built their own business. Now, a second major source of self-made millionaires is well-paid executives. People who work for large companies and work for a long time and buy shares of stock and get paid very well and hold on to the money. Very, very fine way to become extremely wealthy. A third source of professionals, 10%, are doctors, lawyers, and other professionals. People who are at the top of their field, do very good work, get very well paid for it, and, again, hold on to the money. Now, here's an important point. 5% of self-made millionaires in America are salespeople. Now, imagine that. Salespeople make up 5% of self-made millionaires, and these are people who always worked for another company, and they became so good and so well paid that they eventually became millionaires as a result. And that is possible for you. All others, by the way, we've just talked about 99%. All others constitute 1%. Every rock star, every famous author, every actor, every inventor, every single person who's ever done something remarkable constitutes less than 1% of self-made millionaires. So here's the key point here. Self-owned businesses and entrepreneurs contribute 74% of self-made millionaires. Salespeople contribute 5%. Total, 79%. Which means that if you're in sales and entrepreneurship today, you have 79% of the possibility of ever becoming a self-made millionaire contained in exactly what you're doing right now. The only question is, are you going to take full advantage of it? Now, the largest single source of self-made millionaires are people like you who start with nothing and get into the market and start a business and build it. Well, what are the qualities, the most important qualities of self-made millionaires? There's basically 7. And this, again, is the result of exhaustive research. Number 1, top of the list, is honesty. Someone once said that if honesty did not exist, it would have to be invented as the surest way of getting rich. Why is honesty so important? It's because as soon as you go beyond your own resources, you have to borrow money. And you can only borrow money if people trust you, if people know that you're honest and that you've always been honest. So therefore, you dramatically leverage yourself by developing the kind of reputation that people can trust, that people know that if you say you'll do something, you'll do it. If you say you'll pay something back, you'll pay it back. If you have a problem, you let them know, and so on. Now, the second quality of self-made millionaires is self-discipline. Napoleon Hill used to call it the master key to riches. In his interviews of more than 500 of the wealthiest men that America ever produced, he found that self-discipline was the one common quality they all had. It was the one quality that guaranteed their success. And self-discipline is learnable by practicing discipline whenever it is required. The third quality of self-made millionaires is getting along well with people. It's likability. If people like you, they'll want to do business with you. If people like you, they'll want to lend you money. If people like you, they'll want to work for you and work hard. So you find that people with positive mental attitudes, optimists, cheerful, nice people, tend to be far more successful in every area financially than people who aren't. A fourth quality is having a supportive spouse. Now that's interesting. The answer is that when you have a supportive spouse, somebody who stands behind you, works with you, it saves you an enormous amount of energy in life. You don't have to come home at night and fight. You don't have to worry about what he or she is going to say. You don't have to argue. You don't have to go out looking for someone to date and so on. You can take all that energy and channel it into becoming successful. Being single or in a bad relationship is a very time and energy consuming time of your life. Well, the fifth quality is hard work. What we find is the one thing that self-made millionaires have that's obvious when you see them is that they are hard workers. They start earlier, they work harder, and they stay later. In fact, the hardest working people are the people who always move ahead the fastest. Why? Because people get a reputation for hard work, and it opens every door for them. If they're working for another company, it gets them every promotion. I mean, if you owned a company, who would you want to promote? Somebody who worked really, really hard, got a lot done, or somebody who did just what they had to do. So hard work is important. Why? It's because if you work hard, you get more and better results. You create more value. You make a greater contribution. You become worth more by the fact that you work longer and harder hours. Now, the sixth quality of self-made millionaires is that they do what they love to do. Now, this is pretty interesting. One self-made millionaire said something that a lot of them have said. He said, I never worked a day in my life. Once I found the right field for me, I never worked a day in my life. I just did what I love to do, and I get up every morning and I go and do it. So one of the questions you have to ask is, what is it that you really love to do? What is it that you do well? What kind of products or services do you enjoy using yourself, telling other people about? You'll always be the most successful and the happiest doing what you love. And there's a reason for this, is because when you're doing what you enjoy, it unlocks your energy. It enables you to persist. When you're doing something you enjoy, you can persist much longer and harder than if you're doing something you don't particularly like. Many people struggle for years, finally leave a particular job or position, start doing something that they like, and then make more progress in 5 years than they might have made in 20 years before. So keep asking yourself, what do you really love to do? And the seventh quality of self-made millionaires is the ability to sell their ideas, to sell their products, to sell their services. In fact, what we know is entrepreneurs are persuasive. Now, selling, the ability to sell, is a learnable skill. I have had hundreds, thousands of people through my courses who've gotten into selling, been very poor at it, been very tense about it, nervous about calling on new people, and then they came to my courses or listened to my audio programs, and they said, hey, this is just a skill. It's like learning how to use a computer program or a cell phone. It's a skill. There's a logical process to selling, and you can learn it. And the better you are at selling other people, getting them to cooperate with you, getting them to go along with you, to buy your products and services, to work for you, to give you credit, the more persuasive you are, the better is every other part of your life, and the faster you'll become financially independent. In fact, becoming persuasive is a very good way of adding value to yourself and to your life. Well, this brings us to a question, because, by the way, you have all of these qualities already developed to a certain degree. Your job is just to develop them to a higher degree by practicing them whenever you need to. Now, there are several reasons why people don't become rich, and I've broken down the basic 7. As you know, I've done all kinds of programs on this. The number one reason that people don't become rich is that it never occurs to them that they can become rich. Now, let me tell you something. You can do it. You can become a millionaire. If you're a millionaire, you can become a 10 millionaire. You can do it. In fact, you should say over and over again, as you think about personal wealth, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Because when you start realizing that you can do it, then the only question you ask is how? What are the different ways? What do I do? When you cross that mental barrier and you realize that, yes, if hundreds of thousands and millions of other people have done it, I can do it as well. You can do it as well. So the number one reason that it never occurs to them. From now on, it's occurred to you. Number 2, they never decide to. Even if it does occur to them that it's possible, they never make a do or die decision that, by gum, I am going to become financially independent. They wish and they hope and they pray, but here's the rule. Nothing happens in life until you make a decision and burn your bridges and take action. So just decide, I am going to do it, and then take down a piece of paper and write out every single thing that you could think of to do that would help you to become financially independent. Now, the third reason people don't become rich is they procrastinate. Most financial advisors will tell you this is the number one reason. They always have an excuse in their 20s and their 30s, their 40s, always have an excuse, always have a bill to pay, always have a reason why they can't start putting away their money today. They have family and travel and all kinds of things. Interesting, I was reading an article in the financial press just today talking about young people who don't buy health insurance. They say, well, they can't afford health insurance, but they can afford ski vacations and new cars and going out drinking and dating with their friends and clothes and everything else, but they can't afford health insurance, so they're going to put it off until a better time. Do you know that the average person at the age of 40 in America, the average adult, is worth only a couple of $1,000s? The average adult at the age of 50 is only worth about $50,000? Is it most people don't really get serious about their finances until their 50s and 60s? Don't let this happen to you. Don't procrastinate. Make a decision and do it now. Start saving today. Open a bank account and put in 1% in advance of what you're going to make this month. And then from then on, add to that account. Fourth reason that people fail financially is that they fear failure. And fear of failure, as you know, is the greatest killer of all. It paralyzes you. It stops you from taking a chance, from investing your money, from taking a new job, from doing anything where there's a risk. Human beings are terrible about loss. We're so emotional about the possibility of losing money that sometimes we become so paralyzed we never do anything that will enable us to make money. Which is why it's so important that you start off slowly and you become more and more involved as you develop confidence. But whenever you say, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, you actually reduce the fear of failure and you build up your confidence and courage. Now, number 5, they fear rejection. They fear rejection. They fear criticism. They don't want to start a new business because what if they don't succeed and everybody criticizes them? Or they don't want to start a second income business or get into a multi-level marketing business or network marketing. What if people make fun of them? Remember this, that what people think of you has no impact on you at all. It's only what you think of yourself and how you think about others. What they think about you means nothing. If everybody in the world thought that you were a complete idiot because you took a chance on a business opportunity, it doesn't affect you unless you allow it to affect you. So from now on, what you do is you please yourself. And remember, the people who criticize you, or who you think might criticize you if you tried something new or different, will be the first people to line up and say, I was behind you 100% all the time. I was there the whole time. Okay, then the sixth reason that people don't become financially independent is lack of long-time perspective. All successful people have a long-time perspective. They think many years into the future, and they're willing to make sacrifices in the short term to enjoy far greater rewards in the long term. The seventh reason that people retire poor, and this is something that's so silly but so relevant, is that they lack essential knowledge. Now, it's the most amazing thing is they just don't know what to do. They don't read books on how to run a business. They don't study on how to become successful at selling. They don't study on how to negotiate or how to invest. They just act impulsively. They believe that, they went to school at one time and now their education is over. But you find that self-made millionaires are continuously learning, They never stop learning about their field. And sometimes the most important learning that you do is before you get started. I met two brothers who spent 18 months of intensive research, traveling all over the country, talking to people, reading books, taking notes, before they finally settled on a business to get into. And within 2 years, they were both millionaires. They were willing to do their homework. So do your homework. If you see somebody else succeeding or you see a field that lots of people are succeeding in, say, that's an interesting field. I'm going to study that field. Here's a mistake people make. They say, well, what if I do all the study in this field and it turns out that it's not a good field to go into? I've lost all my time. No, you nitwit. You'll have learned valuable things which will help you when you study the next field and go into the next field. No good effort is ever lost. No effort of study that helps you become better is ever lost. It all accumulates and comes back to help you later on. Well, many have read my friend Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The Rich Dad, Poor Dad philosophy is very sound, and what Bob Kiyosaki says that there's 4 categories of people. He calls these the 4 quadrants. The first category, the great majority, are employees who work for a salary. Now, people who work for a salary have all their deductions taken off at source. They take the money home and they spend it on their lifestyle, and they very seldom ever get ahead. A friend of mine wrote a book once, and he said, "You never get rich working for someone else. You only get rich working for yourself." However, employee status is where we start. We all have to start somewhere. The second category of people, the next higher category, is self-employed people. These are people who earn their livings from commissions, income, bonuses, fees, and so on. They're what you might call free agents. Many people, for instance, who are contractors or who are computer programmers or who are repair people or even doctors, lawyers, architects, and engineers who work on their own are basically self-employed. In other words, they can only eat what they kill. They can only get money when they're actually working and getting results that they're being paid for. The next level up are entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs are people who have other people working for them. When you start off with your job and you start your own business, you're an entrepreneur in a way, but you only really become a serious entrepreneur when you begin to hire people who can do certain things for you to free up your time to do things that are more valuable. Now, here's the key to entrepreneurship. The whole purpose of hiring other people is so that you can do more of those things that pay you the very most. And you don't hire other people to do things that you should be doing. All right? If your biggest skill is your ability to sell, you don't hire salespeople and then sit in the office behind the desk shuffling papers. So, entrepreneurs leverage themselves, multiply their ability by hiring others to do specialized functions that they're either not good at or which is not a good use of your time. And finally, investors. This is the highest level of all. These are people who put up their own money and can borrow the money of others, and they create wealth or sources of wealth that generate income for them when they're not working. Even an entrepreneur has to be working all the time, but an investor is a person who owns a piece of a business or maybe even owns the whole business, and it continues to generate revenue. When you buy stocks, by the way, you are investing in another company that other people are running. And if they run the company well, you will make money from stocks and mutual fund investments. This is a form of investing. Your ultimate goal in life is to become an investor. However, you have to go through being an employee, being self-employed, and being an entrepreneur in order to generate the revenue necessary so that you can be an investor. Now, here's the best definition of wealth I've ever read, and it is, wealth is income from other sources. You're not wealthy if you make a good living. You're only wealthy if you make a good living when you're not working. If you have to work every day for your living, you may be well paid, and there's a lot of well-paid people who have so many debts and so much debt service and so many payments that they're only 2 months away from homelessness. So wealth means that you have money that is working for you, whether you work or not. Your goal is to move from employee to self-employed to entrepreneur to investor in stages with a plan and with measures or benchmarks on how to get there. So let's talk about personal financial planning. I have many graduates and people who work with me who changed their lives with some of the things that we're going to talk about. And in personal financial planning, first thing you do is you set clear financial goals for your life and for every part of your life. Remember, a goal that is in writing, and USA Today had a study on this just recently. I've taught it for 20 years. A goal that's in writing has 10 times the likelihood of coming true than a goal that is in your head. And don't worry about getting the wrong goals or changing your goals. Get something on the paper. It's sort of like when you go into a restaurant, the first thing is you want to get something served quickly as possible. What you have to do is write down as quickly as possible financial goals for your life. Start off with your annual income goal. How much do you want to earn in the next year? How much do you want to earn in the second year after that? Year 3, year 4, year 5, year 10, 15, 20. Write it down. What I do, by the way, is I calculate how much I earned this year, and then I increase it by 25% a year. I say next year, if I earned $100,000 this year, next year I want to earn $125,000. And then you use a calculator and you multiply, and the next year you want to earn 155 or 160,000, and the next year so on. Now you've got some targets to aim at. You can always change them with experience, but now you have a target for your annual income goals. Then your next goal is your monthly savings goal. How much do you want to save each month? Be specific about the amount. I want to save X number of dollars each month, and write it down. Remember, it's much more likely to come true. Next thing, calculate your net worth. Figure out how much you're worth today, how much you're worth each month, how much you're worth each year. Constantly keep reviewing your net worth so you can see if it's changing in a positive or negative way. One of the best things you can do is stop by the bank and pick up a bank loan application form and fill it out completely in detail as though a banker were going to study it. Those bank loan application forms, by the way, are as hard as death. You know, they're as serious as a heart attack, as they say. Is you can't fudge. You can't say, well, my stamp collection is worth this or my clothes are worth that. When you fill out one of those applications, all they care about is show me the money. Show me the money. Then set down a goal for your retirement. How much do you want to be bringing in each year when you retire? And then calculate your retirement goal as 20 times that amount. For example, if you want to have an income of $5,000 a month, and that's $60,000 a year, well, 20 times $60,000 a year is $1,200,000 that you'll have to have accumulated before you retire. Now, mind you, this is conservative. It doesn't take into consideration growth of your portfolio, but the very best financial consultants will tell you that your goal should be to have 20 times the amount that you will need to live comfortably on so that you can draw down from your capital all your life and never run out of money. And remember this, is the average person, yourself, listening to this program, is going to live to be 85 or 90 years old. You'll retire at 65 or 70. You'll need 20 years to retire on, so the time to start thinking about it is when? That's right now. Well, the second part of personal financial planning is to analyze your current situation. Take a look at your current situation in every detail. Look at all of your income, look at all of your expenses. First of all, calculate how much are you worth exactly today, and then calculate how much do you owe exactly today, and deduct that, and say, what is your current net worth? One of the exercises I put my students through is I say, imagine that you were going to move to another country and you had to sell everything you had into cash and take the cash with you. How much would you have left in cash if you had to sell everything that you owned? And when you ask that question, you realize that your furniture, your clothes, your stereo set, and things like that are worth about 10 cents on the dollar. So think about terms of cash. What is your current net worth today? Now, most people don't like this exercise, but remember, honesty is important. You must be really, really honest, and as Jim Collins says in his book, Good to Great, you have to ask yourself the brutal questions. Honey, how much are we really worth? We're earning this amount, and we've got this house, and we've got this car, but, when you strip it all away, how much do we really have? How much are we worth? Then, once you know how much you're worth, you resort to trimming. Now, trimming is where you begin to slice off, trim, and reduce your expenses. The way you do this is you carefully evaluate every expense before you make it. Most people are in financial trouble because they spend money impulsively. One of the best recommendations is to get rid of all your credit cards and pay cash for everything. When you have to pay cash for something, you really see how much it's costing. Credit card money sometimes doesn't seem like real money. But when you have to pay cash, it makes you real smart about spending. So evaluate every expense before you invest it. Second of all is delay and procrastinate on buying larger items. Remember, if you take a month to think over before you spend money on something, chances are you won't buy it at all. Always buy time between yourself and making a decision on expensive outlays. Examine your biggest monthly expenses and look for ways to reduce, cut back, and eliminate them. I'll give you an example. If you have credit card debt, you're paying 18 to 21%. The rule is to get out of debt, pay off the debt that has the highest interest rate first. Another thing that you might have to do, at least temporarily, is move into a less expensive home or apartment. If you're paying $2,000 a month and you can find a place that's pretty much as good quality for $1,500 a month, then what you do is you take that $500 a month and you put 100% of it against your debts. It's absolutely amazing how fast you get out of debt. And I'll tell you this, the difference between a person who has money in the bank and is out of debt and a person who has debts and is worried about money is night and day. The one who has money is calm, confident, powerful, optimistic, friendly. You know that little poem that says, "Come here and let me tell you, my little honey, a rich man's jokes are always funny." And the wonderful thing is, when you have lots of money in the bank, you feel great about yourself. When you don't have money, you worry about it all the time. You know, someone once said that money is like food. If you're well fed and you've got lots of food, you don't even think about it. But if you are cut off from food for any period of time, you think of nothing else. It's the same thing with money. So think of cutting back your expenditures. Many people will reduce the size of their car. Many people will get rid of their leases. Many people will look at expenditures in their lives and cut them back, cut off club expenditures, cut off dues, stop subscribing to certain things, and so on, and take that extra money and either save it or pay off your debts. Now, another way, part of personal financial planning, is training. And I'm a fanatic on this subject. Training means to make yourself more valuable. And I think it's one of the most important things you do is constantly work on becoming more valuable. You know, keep saying, how can I add more value? What subjects do I need to become better in? And here's a question which I encourage my students to ask. Is what one skill, if you were really excellent at it, would help you the most in achieving your personal income? What one skill, if you're outstanding at it, would help you the most to double your income? And whatever that skill is, set it as a goal and write it down, make a plan, and work on getting better in that area every single day until you master the skill. And then you ask, now, what one skill would help me the most? And you set that as a goal and make a plan and work on it every day. In training, concentrate on your hourly rate. What I've found is in studying self-made millionaires and the highest paid people in our society is that they all think in terms of how much they earn each hour. People who are not doing well think in terms of how much they earn per week or per month or per year. The highest paid people think in terms of how much I earn per hour, and then they make sure that every single hour they earn at least that amount. For example, if you're earning $50,000 a year, or that's your goal, divided by 2,000 hours, which is the average American work week, that means $25 an hour. What you do from then on is you keep asking yourself, is what I'm doing right now paying $25 an hour? Would my boss pay me $25 an hour to do what I'm doing? Would I pay someone else $25 an hour to do what I'm doing? And whatever your answer is, if the answer is no, stop doing it and start doing the few things that you do that really pay the most. Decide to double your income. And then ask yourself, what do I have to be really good at to earn twice as much? In fact, a good exercise is to find someone who's earning twice as much as you and go to them and ask them and say, what is it that you do differently from me? And listen and make notes. And if you ask a few people, you'll find that they listen to audio programs in their car like this. They read and study every day. They start earlier. They work harder. They stay later. They go to conferences. They concentrate on their highest value tasks. Whatever they tell you, do the same thing. Apply the 80-20 rule to your work. Remember, 20% of what you do each day accounts for 80% of the value of everything you do. So keep asking yourself, what are the 20% of things that I can do right now that are worth 80% of all the things that I do? Sometimes it's the 90-10 rule. Sometimes 10% of what you do on a list of 10 items is worth 90% of what you accomplish that day. And finally, once you've asked these questions, be prepared to change jobs. The average person starting work today is going to have 14 full-time jobs and 4 to 5 full-time careers in their lifetime. I cannot tell you the hundreds and thousands of people who have written to me and called me and emailed me and told me that after they listened to my materials, they changed jobs and changed their entire lives. They realized they could never achieve their goals and ambitions where they were because the salary or income or payment structure was just not there. So think, you may have to change jobs if you want to become a millionaire. You may have to do all kinds of things that you've never thought of doing before. Well, we talked earlier about how people become millionaires. Let's start with starting your own business. 74% of self-made millionaires are people who start their own business. So I want to give you just a few recommendations that you need to follow in order to start and build any kind of a business. Number one, first rule is competence. You must be very good at what you do. You must never go into anything if you don't believe that you can become better than 90% of the people working in that field. You must pick a field that you enjoy, and then you must commit yourself to becoming absolutely excellent at doing the most important thing that customers value. So competence is really important. Most self-owned businesses are started by people who are really, really good at something and who were not appreciated where they were, so they went and they started their own business where they could be paid more. Now, the second part of starting your own business is customers. Remember that sales success is the key to business success. Is that all of business success comes from high sales. All business problems come from low sales. Your job is to focus all of your time and attention on making sales. One of the first questions I ask when I consult with businesses is, where are the customers going to come from? How are you going to attract and keep enough customers in order to make this business worthwhile? And that must be your focal point for everything that you do. Now, the third part of starting your own business is cash flow. Cash flow is the life of the business. You must preserve cash at all times. You must guard cash. You must be jealous about cash. You must demand payment quickly in terms of cash. You must put off cash payments. You must never run out of cash because it's like the blood to the brain of the business. As long as you have cash, you can survive. If you run out of cash, you can go broke overnight. So always be thinking in terms of cash. How much cash do we have? Now here's the fourth key to starting your own business, is study and learn every detail of the business. Even if you take a week, a month, a year, 2 years, do your homework. Pay the price. The time that you spend studying and learning about your business will pay off 10, 20, 50 times later when you actually start the business and get going. Here's a strategy for you. Start small and expand out of your profits. This is called bootstrapping. Many people say, I can't start a business because I don't have enough money. Oh, nonsense. Many people start businesses with nothing. There's 1,000 businesses in America that you can start for $25 or $50 or $100. There's books written about the subject. All you need to do is get some samples and take some orders and start making money, start making sales. Because the key to business is to buy something and then sell it at a profit. Everything in business is buying something and selling it for more than you paid for it. And selling it for more than the total cost of what you paid for it, so that at the end of the day, you have a profit that you can reinvest in building your business. One of the things I suggest that people do is start in MLM, or network marketing, multi-level marketing, network marketing. You can start for a few dollars. You can start with some very highly motivated people. You can start with some very good products or services and just sell them to people that you know. And say, here's something really neat, works like a darn, I use it myself, give it a try. And you can actually build a network marketing business that will enable you to achieve financial independence, or, in your part-time, a very strong second income source. You can start in someone else's business and learn the ropes. One of the best pieces of advice, if you want to get into a business, is go to someone who's in that business and offer to work for them for free. I had a good friend who started off his career this way. Nobody would hire him. He wanted to get into the financial industry. No one would hire him. Finally, he picked the company he wanted to work for. He picked the top person working for that company. He went and he said, I'll tell you what, I'll work for you for free for 1 month. At the end of the month, you can let me go. But if you decide to keep me on, you can pay me for the month, and you can pay me what you would pay anybody else starting in this position. But I'll work for you for 1 month for nothing, and you can decide. And he did, and he was kept on, and within a few years, he was a millionaire. So, use your brains and energy rather than capital and investment to get going. Use hustle. Use what is called sweat equity. And by the way, about 99% of all businesses are started with sweat equity, with you putting in your time, your hours, your own sweat, rather than money or cash. The key to success in every case is sales ability, and sales ability is learnable. Inc. magazine had a study recently, and they said, if you have the ability to sell, you're crazy not to start your own business, because the ability to sell is the most important single skill in any new business. Well, if you're going to start your own business, create a business plan before starting. You can get software on this, you can get books, you can get audio programs, but a business plan is a list of every single thought and consideration. What you're going to sell, who you're going to sell it to, how much you're going to sell it for, how you're going to advertise, how you're going to promote, how much you're going to earn, and so on. The very act of writing out a business plan helps you think through all the critical details so that you don't make the mistakes that lead to bankruptcy for other people. And then once you start, focus 80% of your time on sales and marketing. Get up every morning, get out there, and start selling. I got an email from a woman recently with a complete story of all of her problems with her business. And she said, what should I do? And I said, just sell. Regards, Brian. And she wrote back to me and she said, I was offended by the curtness of your response. And then I read it several times and I realized that's the solution to all my problems. Just sell. Just do it. Practice frugality in all things at all times. During the dot-com boom, people would raise money, then they go out and spend millions of dollars on offices and not on sales. And then they wouldn't get the sales and the company would go broke and all the cash was gone. Your job is to spend as little as you possibly can. Be cheap, cheap, cheap. I call this the canary song. Cheap, cheap, cheap. And spend all of your time and effort just on getting sales. I have a good friend who's a management consultant and says, remember this, if it's not revenue, it's expense. And focus your efforts on revenue, not expense. And finally, in starting your own business, resolve to learn from every mistake. Learn from every experience. Keep asking yourself, what did I learn from this experience? And write it down. Well, many people listening to this say, what about real estate? Well, if you want to build a real estate fortune, it's eminently possible. Many of the big fortunes in America are based on real estate. So here's the key definition of real estate. Real estate is its future earning ability. Real estate is positive cash flow. A piece of real estate is only valuable to the degree to which it generates a positive cash flow that is at least 10 to 12 times the cost of the property. Real estate is valued at 10 to 12 times its positive cash flow after 100% of expenses, debt service, taxes, maintenance, and everything else. So that's what real estate is. You want to get into real estate, and you want to build up an estate in real estate that generates positive cash flow. The rule is, like with your own business, start small and grow with experience. Start small and grow with experience. One of the very best of all strategies for becoming a real estate millionaire is called buy 'em, fix 'em. It's an old strategy, but what it means is you find a house that needs a lot of work and you buy it at a really good price. Sometimes you can just take over the mortgage because the person has let the house decline, so it's not worth very much. Move into the house and spend your evenings and weekends fixing up the house. Once the house is fixed up, you can then rent the house for more than the cost of the mortgage to a good tenant and move on and do it again. I cannot tell you how many people I've met with limited educations, new immigrants to this country, who had no other strategy but buy 'em, fix 'em, and in 10 to 15 years, they own $2, $3, $4 million worth of real estate. They had an income of $8, $10, $12,000 a month, and they were fixed for life. So, use sweat equity to build value in your home. Again, just spend all the time yourself. Learn how to do renovations. Learn how to paint. Learn how to put in carpets and do the gardening yourself and clean it up. Then repeat the process of buy 'em, fix 'em 3 or 4 times each year. Some people aim to have one house that they buy, move into, clean up, and rent every 3 months. Once you get really good at it, you can do it in 2 months. If you're really ambitious, you can then start to hire people who will help you, and you can get these houses turned around and re-rented within 30 days. I know some people who have as many as 200 and 300 houses that they've bought this way. Now, you may ask, what about buying real estate with no money down? Well, buying real estate with no money down, or a very little, sometimes you can buy it with just a few dollars, requires what is called a motivated seller. A motivated seller is a person who wants to get rid of the house. Now, a motivated seller can be a person who just went broke, can be a person who's going through a divorce. It can be the family of a person who died and left them the house and they live in another part of the country. They just want to sell it. Sometimes it can be a foreclosure. The bank has foreclosed on the house and now they just want to get rid of it. Sometimes the person is desperate or changing their lifestyle or got a job offer and wants to move away. In any case, you find the motivated seller. And what the real estate professionals will tell you is you use a 100-10-3-1 rule, which means you have to look at 100 houses that are for sale to find one where the person is willing to sell it below its value with no down payment, no money down. You have to look at 100. You have to find 10 that make sense based on your parameters, and then you have to make offers on 3 of those houses and get 1. So out of 100 houses, you end up getting 1 house. I know people who will do this, so you'll get better and better at it, and all they do is go around and buy inexpensive houses. You know what happens? After a few years, 1 out of 100, they buy the house, they clean it up, they re-rent it, they refinance it, and move on. After a few years, they've got $1 million worth of property, and they have no money of their own in the investment. So the process of buying a house with no money down is offer to buy it with no money down. You can just call. My friend Robert Allen does this in public seminars. He'll take a page out of the newspaper with homes for sale. He'll plug them into a telephone system that the whole audience can hear, and from that town, from that city, and he'll call them up and say, hello, this is Robert Allen. Would you sell your house for no money down? And he doesn't make more than 3 or 4 calls before the person is willing to sell their house with no money down. It's the most amazing darn thing. It's happening all the time. Now, if you need to make an offer on a house, lowball the house. Offer 50 or 60% of the offering price and offer to pay cash. You see, if you set up a bank that will lend you 80% on a first mortgage for the house that you're going to move into temporarily while you're fixing it up, well then, if you can get the house for 60 or 70 or 75% of its value, let's say it's a $100,000 house and you offer $60,000 or $70,000 cash, the bank will give you 80. You can move into the house, use the balance to clean up the house, rent the house out, and you now have a $100,000 house and $20,000 worth of equity. Quickly clean up the house. The keys to cleaning up a house are to, first of all, paint it so it looks really good from the outside. Clean up the yard, do the landscaping, clean up the whole yard, paint everything, and carpet the inside of the house. It's absolutely amazing. Painting inside and out, new carpeting throughout, plus nice landscaping will change the value of a house by many thousands of dollars and enable you to get a mortgage or enable you to rent out the house. Then repeat the process, and each time you do it, you get better and smarter. You'll do it for less money. You'll do it in less time. You'll buy better homes. You'll make better deals. And after you've done 5 or 10 houses, you're going to become a genius at buying them, fixing them up, renting them out, putting them into your portfolio, and so on. The key consideration is always the net cash flow that's possible from renting out the property. How much cash are you going to get back every month as a result of owning this property above and beyond all the costs? Now, one key point with regard to commercial real estate. People ask, well, what about apartment buildings or retail? The key consideration there is, first of all, the possible rental rates. How much can you rent the property for relative to how much you're going to have to pay? So you check the area carefully in advance. The second key to success is good tenants. And by the way, good tenants are the key to success in residential real estate as well. Avoid what are called tenants from hell by carefully doing background checks on your tenants. If you have good tenants, it's a dream. If you have bad tenants, it's a nightmare. The key in commercial real estate is find good tenants. Find really nice people who have good credit ratings, solid business, people who will pay in full, on schedule. Do your background checks. Never believe anything or take anything anyone tells you on faith when you're looking at renting your property to them. Now, your goal, of course, is to buy the property and rent out the property, gradually increasing the rents, and then mortgage or remortgage the property based on cash flow, and then take that mortgage money and reinvest it in more real estate. Important point. If you can buy a piece of property and remortgage it later, none of that money is taxable. I just processed a piece of property where we remortgaged it for $1 million above what we paid for it 10 years ago, and all that money goes into your pocket, no taxes payable, just by getting a bigger mortgage on a property that is now earning more money. Okay, borrowing from the bank. People say, well, how do you borrow money from the bank? Well, understand this, that banks are regulated. Banks are not in the business of investing. Banks don't take risks. Banks have only one goal in life. It's to make good, safe, careful, conservative loans and get paid back on schedule. That's all they care about. So, banks have 5 C's that they look at whenever you apply to them for a loan. The first C is they look for your credit rating. What is your credit rating? And that means your personal credit rating, because the best predictor that you will pay back the loan is how many loans that you've paid back already. So never do anything to hurt your credit rating. Maintain a meticulous credit rating all your life. The second thing that banks look for is your collateral. Is what else do you have that they can seize and sell if you don't pay back the money on this loan? And they seek as much as $5 of collateral in terms of your home, your car, your savings for every dollar that they will lend you. They are not in the business of taking risk. The third C is cash flow. And cash flow means from all sources. Not only how much are you going to get to service this loan or how much will your business make, but what other sources of income do you have just in case this particular source of cash flow doesn't work out. The fourth C is commitment. They want to know how much money you've got in it. And they want to be sure that you have enough money that it hurts. It's called hurtin' money. They want you to hurt. They want you to have skin in the game. And the more money you have, the more likely they are to lend to you. The fifth C is character, which means your reputation throughout your entire life. The better reputation you have, the more likely it is that they'll lend you money. So visit several banks if necessary to find a banker who will work with you. Be sure to invest considerable time and effort up front in finding a banker, and keep your banker informed of any changes. Maintain a good relationship with your banker. Now finally, stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. These are excellent places for parking money. When I say parking money, very few people make a lot of money in the stock market unless they're full-time and very intelligent, sophisticated investors. So most self-made millionaires park their money in the stock market. So when you look at stocks or mutual funds, the most important determinants of value are the sales, the earnings, and the free cash flow available. Always look at how solid the company is. Here's one of the measures, which is the price-earnings ratio. The price-earnings ratio for the last 100 years of most good stocks has been about 15-1. So therefore, look for stocks that have a good price-earnings ratio. Second of all, look for growing sales and growing profitability over at least the last 4 quarters. You want stocks that are growing stocks, that are positive stocks. Look for an industry or sector that's growing. For example, utilities are sometimes a great industry. Sometimes restaurants are a great industry. Sometimes telecom is a great industry. Sometimes it's not. But look at industry sectors that are growing or declining. And finally, look for a quality of management and consistency of results over time. Jack Welch is considered one of the best managers for a major company because while he managed General Electric, they had growing sales and growing earnings for 20 years. You should be able to do the same thing in checking out your stocks. Now, the best investment strategy in the stock market is what is called dollar cost averaging. That's where you invest the same amount every month in a mutual fund. Over the last 80 years, the average return in mutual funds has been about 10.8% per year. When you invest in mutual funds, invest in no-load mutual funds. They're just as good or better than load funds. And investigate before you invest. Get all the information you need so you can park your money intelligently. Finally, let me say that if you have money, you're going to get sued. So form a family limited partnership to act as a firewall to protect your assets. Transfer all your assets into the family limited partnership and have your life insurance policy owned by a separate life insurance trust. Finally, draw up a will that allocates your estate clearly in case something happens for you, and be sure to have all the insurance you need so that you don't take chances with your income. Don't take chances with your wealth. The key qualities of self-made millionaires are future orientation. They think 10 to 20 years ahead, and they're always thinking long-term when they're making short-term decisions. The second key is goal orientation. Successful people, self-made millionaires, have very clear written goals and plans for each part of their financial life, and so should you. The third key is result orientation. Always focus on those areas where the most valuable results are possible for you. And finally, action orientation. This is the key to financial success. Get busy, get going, develop a sense of urgency. Get on with it, just do it. And finally, resolve in advance that you will never give up. Napoleon Hill said that persistence is the iron quality of success. Persistence is to the character of man as carbon is to steel. So make a decision that you can do it, that you will become a self-made millionaire, that you will become financially successful, that you will take every step necessary, and that you will never give up. Keep saying to yourself, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And remember this, act boldly, and unseen forces will come to your aid. Good luck.